Imagine building the biggest entertainment company in the world, owning thousands of stores, serving millions of loyal customers, and making billions of dollars every year. From the outside, your business looks unstoppable. Your competitors are tiny. Your brand is everywhere. Your future seems guaranteed. Then one day, a small startup walks through your front door. It offers to sell itself to you, for just $50 million. You laugh. You say no. And you send them away. A few years later, that same startup becomes worth hundreds of billions of dollars, while your own company files for bankruptcy. This isn't fiction. It actually happened. This is the incredible story of how Netflix transformed entertainment, and how Blockbuster LLC ignored one of the biggest opportunities in business history. Welcome to Empires. Let's begin. To understand Netflix, we first need to understand Blockbuster. If you grew up in the 1990s, Friday nights probably looked very different. Families would drive to their local Blockbuster store, walk through endless shelves of movies, argue about what to watch, grab popcorn, and head home. It wasn't just shopping. It was an experience. At its peak, Blockbuster operated more than 9,000 stores around the world. It served millions of customers every week. Its famous blue and yellow logo became a symbol of movie night. The company dominated the video rental industry. Its revenues reached billions of dollars. Competitors struggled to keep up. For many people, renting a movie meant one thing: going to Blockbuster. When a company becomes this successful, it often begins believing that nothing can replace it. History has shown that's exactly when companies become the most vulnerable. Now imagine this. You rent a movie. Life gets busy. You forget to return it. A few days later, you are charged a late fee. Not because you damaged the movie. Not because you lost it. Simply because you were late. For millions of customers, late fees became one of the most frustrating parts of renting movies. Among those frustrated customers was a man named Reed Hastings. One popular story is that Hastings was inspired after paying a late fee for a rented movie. While Hastings has shared different versions of Netflix's origin over the years, he has consistently said that frustrating rental experiences helped shape his thinking. Whether that specific incident happened exactly as remembered, the bigger idea remained the same. The rental experience could be better. Instead of accepting the system, Hastings asked a different question. What if renting movies didn't involve late fees at all? That simple question would eventually transform an entire industry. In 1997, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph founded Netflix. But here is something surprising. Netflix didn't begin as a streaming company. It couldn't. The internet simply wasn't fast enough. Instead, Netflix mailed DVDs directly to customers. People ordered movies online. Netflix shipped them by mail. Customers watched them and returned them in prepaid envelopes. It was simple, convenient, and unlike traditional rental stores, there were no due dates and no late fees on its subscription plan. At first, many people were skeptical. Why wait for a DVD in the mail when you could drive to Blockbuster? It seemed like a strange idea. But slowly, customers began appreciating the convenience. They no longer had to rush back to the store. No more late fees. No more wasted trips. Netflix wasn't trying to build a better video store. It was trying to eliminate the need for one. By the year 2000, Netflix was still a relatively small company. It wasn't making large profits. The dot-com crash had created enormous pressure. The future looked uncertain. So Netflix made a surprising move. Its founders approached Blockbuster. They proposed a deal. Blockbuster could buy Netflix for approximately $50 million. Imagine that moment. The world's biggest video rental company had the chance to own the startup that would eventually redefine entertainment. The deal never happened. According to multiple accounts from those involved, Blockbuster declined the offer. At the time, the decision may have seemed reasonable. Blockbuster was the market leader. Netflix was small. DVD by mail appeared to be a niche business. Why spend millions acquiring a company that looked insignificant? But great disruption often looks small, right before it changes everything. This story isn't simply about one company winning and another losing. It's about two very different philosophies. Blockbuster focused on protecting the business it already had. Netflix focused on building the business customers would want in the future. One asked, how do we improve our stores? The other asked, what if customers no longer need stores at all? That difference in thinking would shape the next decade. The greatest business opportunities often don't come from improving the past. They come from imagining a completely different future. As more people gained access to the internet, Netflix continued refining its service. Its subscription model encouraged customers to watch more movies without worrying about individual rental fees. Word spread. Membership grew. Technology improved. Most people still didn't realize it. But a quiet revolution had already begun. Not inside movie theaters. Not inside Blockbuster stores. But inside living rooms, where convenience was slowly becoming more valuable than tradition. At the start of the new millennium, Blockbuster was still the king. Netflix was still the challenger. From the outside, it looked like an impossible battle. But then, the internet became faster. Streaming became possible. And one company made a decision that completely changed the future of entertainment. In the next chapter, we'll uncover how Netflix bet everything on streaming, why Blockbuster hesitated, and how one technological shift turned an industry giant into a business case study taught around the world. By the early 2000s, Netflix had built a loyal customer base. Its DVD by mail business was growing. Customers loved the convenience. Investors were becoming more confident. From the outside, everything looked promising. But inside Netflix, Reed Hastings was already thinking about the next disruption. He understood something most companies ignored. Technology never stands still. One day, internet speeds would become fast enough to deliver movies instantly. At that moment, DVDs would become unnecessary. Many executives would have protected the business that was already making money. Hastings made a different decision. He was willing to disrupt his own company before someone else did. That mindset would eventually separate Netflix from nearly every competitor. In 2007, Netflix introduced something that seemed almost unbelievable. Customers could watch movies without waiting for a DVD to arrive. No shipping. No return envelopes. No late fees. Just press play. Today, that sounds completely normal. But back then, it felt revolutionary. Internet connections were still improving. Many people doubted whether streaming could replace physical DVDs. Netflix wasn't replacing its DVD business overnight. Instead, it was preparing for the future, while continuing to serve the present. Great companies don't wait for change to become obvious. They prepare for it long before everyone else sees it. Blockbuster wasn't blind. Its leaders could see Netflix growing. They understood that customers were changing. So, they decided to respond. The company launched its own DVD by mail service. Later, it introduced online streaming. On paper, it looked like a smart strategy. After all, Blockbuster had a globally recognized brand. Thousands of stores. Millions of loyal customers. But there was one enormous problem. Its traditional business still depended heavily on physical stores. Changing too quickly risked hurting the company's existing revenue. Changing too slowly risked losing customers. Blockbuster found itself trapped between two worlds. The old business and the new one. Netflix had no such dilemma. It wasn't protecting thousands of retail locations. It could move faster, experiment more boldly, and fully commit to streaming. Sometimes, the biggest company moves the slowest. Think about your own habits. When was the last time you rented a DVD? For many people, it's been years. Consumer behavior rarely changes overnight. It changes gradually. First, a few early adopters. Then, millions. Eventually, the old way begins to disappear. People realized they no longer wanted to drive to a store, search for a movie, wait in line, return it later. Streaming was simply easier. Convenience became one of Netflix's greatest competitive advantages. Customers didn't just prefer streaming. They quickly began expecting it. The companies that understand changing customer expectations often shape the future. The companies that ignore them often become part of history. Streaming alone wasn't enough. As competition increased, Netflix faced another challenge. What if movie studios stopped licensing their content? The company needed something no competitor could easily copy. The answer was original programming. In 2013, Netflix released House of Cards. It wasn't simply another television show. It represented a completely new strategy. Netflix was no longer just distributing content. It was creating it. Soon came more original productions, documentaries, movies, international series, award-winning dramas. The platform became known not only for convenience, but for exclusive entertainment. Netflix had transformed itself once again. First, DVD rentals. Then, streaming. Now, a global entertainment studio. While Netflix continued growing, Blockbuster faced increasing financial pressure. Customers visited stores less frequently. Revenue declined. Debt became harder to manage. Efforts to modernize came too late. In 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy protection. For millions of people, it was difficult to believe. The company that once dominated home entertainment had fallen. Thousands of stores closed. Employees lost jobs. An era quietly came to an end. Today, only a single Blockbuster store remains operating as a nostalgic reminder of a business that once ruled the industry. It wasn't a lack of customers that destroyed Blockbuster. It was a failure to adapt. Before the market changed, Netflix had reinvented itself, again and again. Blockbuster had protected yesterday's success, until tomorrow arrived. But this story is about much more than movies. In the final chapter, we'll uncover the timeless business lessons behind Netflix's rise, why innovation often requires disrupting yourself, and how one decision transformed a startup into one of the world's largest entertainment companies. For many companies, becoming the market leader is the finish line. For Netflix, it was only the beginning. After streaming transformed home entertainment, the company faced a new challenge: competition. Suddenly, some of the world's biggest media companies entered the streaming business. The Walt Disney Company launched Disney Plus. Warner Bros. Discovery expanded Max. Amazon invested heavily in Prime Video. Apple Incorporated introduced Apple TV Plus. The industry became more competitive than ever before. Netflix could no longer rely on being the only major streaming platform. It had to keep innovating, keep producing original content, keep improving recommendations, keep expanding globally. Success isn't something you achieve once. It's something you earn, again and again. Have you ever noticed that Netflix often recommends shows you actually enjoy? That's not luck. Netflix invested heavily in personalization. It analyzes viewing patterns, genres, watch history, and many other signals to recommend content that is likely to interest each viewer. The goal isn't simply to help you find a movie. It's to make discovering something enjoyable feel effortless. The product isn't only the movies. The experience of finding the right movie is part of the product too. That focus on user experience helped Netflix stand out in an increasingly crowded market. Not every Netflix decision succeeded. The company experimented with pricing. It introduced new features. Some ideas worked. Others didn't. Like every innovative business, Netflix learned through trial and error. One of the most important lessons from successful companies is this: they don't expect every experiment to succeed. They expect to learn quickly. Failure becomes data, feedback, an opportunity to improve. The greatest risk is often refusing to take any risks at all. The story of Netflix and Blockbuster offers lessons that go far beyond entertainment. Lesson 1: never assume you are too big to fail. Blockbuster dominated the market. Customers trusted the brand. Revenue was enormous. Yet size alone couldn't protect it from change. Markets reward adaptation, not history. Lesson 2: listen to changing customer behavior. Customers didn't wake up one morning and suddenly abandon DVD stores. Their habits changed gradually. Technology improved. Convenience became more important. The companies paying close attention noticed those changes early. Your customers will always tell you where the future is going, if you are willing to listen. Lesson 3: Be willing to disrupt yourself. Netflix was making money from DVD rentals. Yet it still invested in streaming. That decision threatened its own business model. But if Netflix hadn't disrupted itself, someone else eventually would have. Sometimes, protecting today's success prevents tomorrow's growth. Lesson 4: Long-term thinking wins. Building a great business isn't about chasing every short-term trend. It's about making decisions that continue creating value years from now. Netflix invested in technology, content, personalization, global expansion. Those investments required patience. The companies thinking 5 or 10 years ahead often outperform those focused only on the next quarter. Lesson 5: Innovation never stops. The world keeps changing. Technology keeps evolving. Customer expectations continue rising. The moment a company believes, "We have already figured everything out," it begins falling behind. Final chapter: A Tale of Two Mindsets. At the beginning of this story, there were two companies. One had thousands of stores. The other had a website. One protected the present. The other invested in the future. One believed customers would continue coming to stores. The other imagined a world where customers wouldn't need stores at all. Neither company knew exactly what the future would look like. But one company prepared for change. The other reacted after change had already arrived. That difference changed business history. The next great disruption probably won't look obvious at first. It may begin in a garage, a small office, a university dorm room, or with a startup that most people dismiss. History has shown that today's underdog can become tomorrow's industry leader. The lesson isn't only about Netflix or Blockbuster. It's about mindset. The willingness to question assumptions, to challenge success, to keep learning, even when you are already winning. Because every empire eventually faces the same question. Will it continue evolving, or will it become comfortable with yesterday's success? The answer to that question often determines whether a company shapes the future, or becomes part of history. Thank you for watching Empires. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe for more stories about the world's greatest companies, their boldest decisions, their biggest mistakes, and the lessons hidden behind every business empire. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and remember, great companies don't just react to the future, they build it.